Then they'll divide it by something like 180, and it's as if they think that this material is getting into the babies and young children as a slow drip over 180 days time, and that averages out okay. It doesn't come over a frightening threshold. Well, how silly can you get? It doesn't go into the kids through a gradual drip. It goes in all at once with a jab, with a shot, and puts these kids well over even the most conservative thresholds for danger point. We have our Environmental Protection Agency spending hundreds of millions of dollars studying pollution issues, and mercury is one of the big issues, forcing industry, especially the smokestack industries and the mining, to spend billions of dollars trying to correct their mercury problem. But they totally ignore, or almost totally ignore, the dental offices. And in jurisdiction after jurisdiction, in place after place, by far the biggest burden of mercury that's going into our water tables, our water supply, is coming from the dental offices. Now, why won't the feds look at that? Well, my theory is funding, money. You can go to Congress and you can get hundreds of millions of dollars appropriated to work with the smokestack industries and with mining. You can't get that kind of funding to deal with dental offices, and therefore the feds don't go after it. They want the big bucks. Whether it's the pharmaceutical industry, the dental industry, the federal agencies, they're all looking for their form of funding. It's all about money. An oversight in these investigations is so glaring that it seems to me it must be intentional. I mean, these federal doctors and scientists can't possibly be this stupid. They always measure the toxicities as a standalone thing. When they're trying to measure mercury, they're trying to calculate whether it does or doesn't do damage. They act as if mercury is the only substance in the gut, or the only substance in the bloodstream, and that's just plain silly. There's a whole mishmash of other things in our digestive tract and in our bloodstream at any given time, and some of the synergies are devastating. Take lead, for instance. That's been well publicized over decades. We all know that lead can be devastating to people. We all know that young folks in the inner city are far more susceptible to damage from lead than the general population. Except now, of course, there's here in the East Coast, in the Washington metropolitan area, there's quite a scare about lead in the water supply at many times the rate they previously thought. But put lead and mercury both in the bloodstream at the same time, and you have a devastating synergy. 1 and 1 isn't 2. It's not an addition here. It's a multiplication. In this case, lead plus mercury, 1 plus 1 equals 100, at least. So we have a medical system where people that need help getting their fillings, they get mercury in their mouth, or they get nothing. This is the same population that's getting lead in their drinking water, lead from older apartments and houses, and the effect on some children is absolutely devastating, and the cost to society is more than we can measure. Now, a lot of the federal health officials seem to put a great stock in the Journal of the American Dental Association and in the papers that come out of the American Dental Association. They treat them with the deference or the reverence as if this is a professional association, but it's not. It's a trade association. Their journal is not a scientific, peer-reviewed journal. It's a trade journal. And there was many years in which the American Dental Association, or to be more correct, one of its subsidiaries, owned the patents on the two best-selling amalgam mixtures. So there was a financial interest in every filling that was put in the mouth of Americans. Well, During the time they owned that patent, more and more and more impartial scientists came out with the findings that, wait a minute, this mercury leaches for as much as 50 years while in these amalgams. And a good part of the fumes get into the human brain. Well, there was a financial interest on the part of the ADA to poo-poo that for a good long while. And then when it reached the point where even they surely had to know, they had to know that harm was being caused, it was too late. The incorrect information had been put out there for so many years, it was just impossible for them to change their stories. There have been efforts to give them a graceful escape route, such as let's think of the environment, let's think of the water table, let's stop dumping that mercury down the drain and harming the environment. But so far, organized dentistry has chosen not to accept the graceful way out. They're still putting mercury in our mouths to the tune of about 100 million fillings every year. Golden rule that we're taught throughout life is to do unto others as you would have them do unto you. But in Washington, D.C., that's changed. The golden rule is he who has the gold rules.
Some people might question that the smoke we see coming off the amalgam filling might not actually be mercury. The fact that it is mercury can easily be demonstrated with a Jerome mercury vapor analyzer. The tooth is first cooled and then analyzed with the mercury sniffer. The Jerome shows that there are no emissions coming off a cooled dental amalgam. Then we stimulate the surface with a small explorer, scraping gently. And the Jerome takes another 10-second sample. California maximum contaminant level for mercury at the hazardous waste dump is 100. This filling is well over that level in just seconds of stimulation, thus demonstrating beyond doubt that amalgams leak mercury anytime they are stimulated. The power of an exhaust operatory vacuum can be demonstrated by grinding on this plaster study model. Notice how the particles cannot escape the pull of the large vacuum. This same principle should be applied during any drilling on amalgam to prevent the patient and doctor and staff from inhaling any of the particles. Dr. Layton puts on nitrile gloves, not latex. Some people are allergic to latex, and latex also allows mercury to penetrate, while nitrile keeps the mercury out. We start by draping the tooth with a rubber dam and isolate it so that from the rest of the mouth. Then we place a vacuum both below and above the dam. Since some mercury vapor may penetrate the latex dam, the patient holds the large vacuum near her chin to capture any vapor or particles that escape the other vacuums. Notice how the big vacuum gobbles up its cleanings. The patient's nose should also be protected with either static or, better yet, positive pressure air, since the nose is so close to the work area. The doctor and the assistant should be protected as well. They can have positive pressure air masks or the Mine Safety Association mask. This mask has cartridges that filter mercury and an orange indicator button that changes color when the mask has been overexposed to mercury. The carbon filter dust mask and the paper mask are of little protection for removing mercury. Once the mercury is out, using the cut and chunk technique, the mouth should be thoroughly rinsed for 60 seconds to capture any mercury particles. Now a fresh rubber dam can be applied and the tooth restored. The assistant wraps the old rubber dam up in her glove, and Dr. Layton does the same thing to prevent any mercury from escaping into the office. The alternative to latex protocols and cleanup can be found on the IAOMT webpage at www.iaomt. Now that you've seen the smoking teeth video, many people will want further information. We strongly recommend that you stop by our website and download 2 articles, the scientific case against amalgam and a scientific response to the American Dental Association's claims of safety. It's important to remember that dentists are not physicians, and as dentists they may not treat nor diagnose any of the diseases that mercury causes. The International Academy of Oral Medicine and Toxicology has worked for more than 20 years to design and fund medical research into the safety of dental amalgam and educate physicians and dentists in how to treat mercury poisoning and safely remove old amalgam fillings. The dentist will not willingly stop using amalgam. Over the last 2 decades, about 1 out of 4 dentists has voluntarily stopped using this material in their practices. Unfortunately, many government and welfare programs and insurance companies only pay for amalgam fillings, and thus patients are forced due to economics to accept mercury-leaking fillings. 9 countries have thus far restricted the use of amalgam, and some cities in the United States now require mercury separators on the drains of the dental office in order to protect the environment. During the recent congressional hearing on mercury, the San Francisco Regional Water Quality Control Board reported a 90% drop in sewage mercury when mercury separators were installed in every mercury-using dental office in the area. The amount of mercury found in just 5 fillings is enough to contaminate 1 billion gallons of wastewater. What can you do about this? The International Academy of Oral Medicine and Toxicology needs more money for research. We need more dentists and physicians to take our courses and learn how to adequately protect themselves and their patients. The environmental laws we currently have in place are sufficient if only those responsible would enforce the laws. Dentists should not be allowed to contaminate our environment, and they can't if the laws were enforced. The dentist should not be allowed to poison their staff, and they can't if the occupational health and safety laws were enforced. The whole solution to this problem can be summed up this way. 1. Make the government stop requiring mercury fillings for poor people. 2. Make the dental schools stop teaching students to use mercury and require them to comply with the existing environmental and occupational health and safety laws. 3. Make the dentist do the same. 4. You take the time to make a phone call to your legislature and demand action. And 5. Insist that your dentist receive adequate training before you have any more treatment.